In a world demanding your constant attention,
Reclaiming your mind and your body is the ultimate act of rebellion.
It's Wholistic Wednesday where the world's alive. Spirit and science dancing in time. Together they show the beauty of both sides combined.
welcome back to Wholistic Wednesdays. I'm Amy.
And I'm Shelly.
Whether you're joining us on your morning walk, in the school pickup line, driving to work, or enjoying a quiet cup of coffee, we're so grateful you're here.
And if you're listening thinking, I haven't had a quiet moment in weeks, you're definitely not alone.
Can I tell you something I hear all the time?
Go for it.
People will say, I was doing so well. I was journaling every morning. I was eating healthier. I was sleeping better. I was meditating. And then life happened. And somehow that sentence always ends with, now I have to start all over.
It's really amazing how quickly we've convinced ourselves that that one interruption erased months of progress, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like if we miss a week or even a day, we suddenly act like everything we've learned disappeared.
I think that's because we're taught to think in extremes. We're either on track or we've completely fallen off the track. There's very little room for being human.
Yes. Life isn't a straight line. It's messy. It's unexpected. Vacations happen. Kids get sick. Work gets busy. Families need us. And sometimes we simply just get tired. And none of those things mean we failed.
Can I confess something?
Yes.
A few weeks ago, I realized I hadn't been taking my afternoon walk. It wasn't intentional. Life just got really busy. At first, I caught myself thinking, well, there goes that habit. And I laughed because I realized missing a few walks didn't erase every walk I'd taken.
I love that because I had almost the exact same realization with meditation. There was a season where my mornings felt so rushed that I stopped sitting in silence. And when I finally had time again, I caught myself thinking, I need to get back to where I was. Then it hit me. Why am I trying to go backwards? I learned so much since then. I'm not starting over. I'm starting from experience.
Ooh, I love that. You're not starting over, you're starting from experience. That's absolutely worth writing down.
I think I needed to hear that myself.
One thing we know from behavioral science is that consistency isn't about perfection, it's about returning. People who maintain healthy habits long term aren't perfect. They simply just get back to them more quickly after life interrupts. And that's the difference.
Spiritually, I think grace is one of the most overlooked parts of healing. We extend compassion to everyone else. But when it comes to ourselves, one missed workout, one difficult week, one emotional day, and suddenly we're speaking to ourselves in ways we never speak to someone we love.
That's such a great point, Amy. If your best friend told you she missed journaling for 2 weeks, you probably wouldn't say, well, I guess you're a failure now.
That's what I'm going to start telling you. But you're right. You'd probably say, it's okay. Just pick up your journal today. So why don't we offer ourselves that same kindness? What that reminds me of gardens.
I knew we were going to turn this into a nature analogy.
Hey, you know me way too well. But seriously, a garden doesn't bloom all year long. There are seasons where it looks quiet, where growth is happening underground, where it needs pruning, where it simply rests. And no gardener stands out there in the winter saying, well, I guess it's over forever, right? Another season's coming.
And that's a great comparison because our brains also need seasons of integration, learning and rest and reflection. Growth isn't always visible. Sometimes it's happening beneath the surface before we even notice it.
Exactly. Maybe your routine changed because life required something different of you, but that doesn't mean you've lost yourself. It means you've been invited to begin again with everything you've learned. And I have to admit, I used to be the queen of waiting for perfect starts.
Monday?
Monday, the first of the month. Ooh, what about the full moon? No, no, no. I'm going to do it on the new moon. You know what? I'm just going to wait till January 1st. You know what? Let's do it on my birthday. Wait, Mercury retrograde is ending. I could find any reason at all to wait.
I think we've all done that. There's something about having a clean slate that just feels motivating, right? Like somehow tomorrow's version of us is going to wake up completely transformed.
Exactly. And sometimes that fresh energy is wonderful. There's nothing wrong with using a meaningful date as a reset. But where we get in trouble is believing we can't begin until that day arrives.
Right. Because if today is Thursday, why wait until Monday? If it's August 19th, why are we waiting until September 1st? Every single day, your brain has the ability to create a new pattern. You don't have to earn the right to begin again.
And can I ask you something? Why do fresh starts feel so powerful? Because there's really is something about them.
There is. Researchers call that the fresh start effect. Certain dates like birthdays, Mondays, New Year's Day, or even the first day back after vacation, it naturally creates a mental boundary. Our brains like just normally separate the old chapter from the new chapters. That can be incredibly motivating, but here's the catch. The motivation fades if we believe that one imperfect day means we failed.
Mm, that's the part I wish more people understood. It's not the fresh start that changes your life. It's what you do and on an ordinary Tuesday when nobody's watching.
Exactly, Amy. Transformation is usually much less dramatic than what we imagine. It's brushing your teeth, drinking a glass of water, taking a walk, going to bed maybe 30 minutes earlier, checking in with yourself. Those little things don't seem life-changing until you look back 6 months later.
You know what I've noticed lately? People keep saying, I need to catch up on work, catch up on sleep, catch up on life. And every time I hear it, I wonder, who are we racing?
That's a great question because the feeling of being behind is so emotional and it's more than factual. Sometimes nothing is actually wrong. We've just created an imaginary timeline for how life should be unfolding.
I had this moment not long ago where I looked at my planner. There were things I hadn't finished, projects that took longer than I expected, a few personal goals I put on hold, and my first thought was, I'm behind. Then I stopped myself. Behind compared to what? Compared to a schedule I created 6 months ago before life changed? I mean, come on, that's not really my reality anymore.
Exactly. And plans are allowed to evolve. That's not failure. It's called life, right? That's adaptability. And adaptability is actually one of the healthiest qualities we can develop as humans. The nervous system thrives when we learn how to adjust instead of constantly fighting reality.
I love that word, adaptability. And on a side note here, I'm a huge fan of Survivor. If you know me, you know that I'm a super fan of Survivor. And to be a successful Survivor player, that's one of the traits that you have to have, adaptability, because the game of Survivor is forever changing. And spiritually, I think that's another way of describing surrender. It's not giving up. It's not quitting, but it's releasing this constant need to force everything into our original plan. Sometimes life redirects us for a reason. Sometimes the detour teaches us something we couldn't have learned on the straight path.
And from the science side, flexibility is associated with resilience. When we become rigid, everything feels like a threat. But when we're able to adjust, our stress response softens because we're no longer spending all of that energy resisting the change.
I think that's true emotionally too. The more I try to control every outcome, the more anxious I become. But when I can say, okay, this wasn't the plan, what's my next best step? Everything shifts, not because the situation changed, but because I changed my relationship to it.
And that is a huge and important distinction. We can't always control our circumstances, especially in life, but we can influence how we respond to it. And that response shapes both our mental and our physical well being.
Can I share with you one of my favorite reset rituals? It's something I started doing after realizing I was waiting for these huge, dramatic, fresh starts. Now, whenever I feel disconnected, I create what I call the 5 minute reset. I make a cup of my favorite herbal tea. Sometimes it's peppermint, sometimes it's chamomile. It's whatever sounds comforting for the day. I put my phone in the other room. That's so pivotal. Okay. I light a candle, and not because candles magically solve every problem, but because it signals my brain that I'm shifting gears. And then I ask myself 3 questions. What can I release today? What is one thing I can begin again? And what is one thing I'm already doing well that I don't need to fix? Those last words are my favorite because we spend so much time looking for what's broken, we forget to notice what's already working.
I love all of this, especially that third one. What is the one thing I'm already doing well? We don't give ourselves enough credit. And there's actually research showing that acknowledging your own strengths can improve motivation and confidence. When we only focus on what's missing, our brains start filtering for problems. But when we intentionally notice what's going well and we tell ourselves, we create a more balanced perspective. It's not pretending everything's perfect. It's just remembering that we're more than our unfinished to-do list.
Exactly. And sometimes beginning again isn't about adding another habit. Sometimes it's remembering the person you've already become. You know what's been sitting with me throughout this whole conversation? The phrase, life happened. People say it almost apologetically. I was doing really well and then life happened. But life is always happening. There's always going to be something unexpected. There'll always be an unexpected phone call, a busy season, a celebration, grief, vacations. Kids get sick. We have extra work. There's good surprises and there's hard surprises. That's not the interruption. That's life.
I was just thinking the same thing. We tend to imagine that just one day life is finally going to calm down. Magically, I guess. Everything will be organized. The house will stay clean. We'll never get sick. We'll have extra time. Our calendar will magically stay empty. And then we'll finally start taking care of ourselves.
Exactly. And that day never comes. Not because we're doing anything wrong, but because life was never designed to stop moving. Maybe wellness isn't about waiting for a calm life. Maybe it's about learning to care for ourselves in the middle of a full one.
I love that. Because if we wait for perfect conditions, we'll always be waiting. Real life is messy, people. And healthy habits have to be flexible enough to fit into real life, not just the ideal life.
That's exactly right. Okay, so it's time for today's listener question. And this one comes from Jessica in Arizona. And she writes, I always start healthy routines with so much motivation, but after a couple of weeks, I lose momentum. How do I finally stay consistent? Jessica, first of all, thank you for asking that because I think you've just described about 90% of the population.
Including us sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. None of us are perfectly consistent. The goal isn't perfection, the goal is returning.
Exactly. One thing I remind my clients is that motivation is wonderful, but it's unreliable. Some days you'll have plenty of it, other days you'll have none. One thing I remind clients is that motivation is wonderful, but it's totally unreliable. Some days you'll have plenty of it, and other days you'll have none. If your habits depend entirely on feeling motivated, they're going to disappear the first time life gets stressful. That could be every day. So don't wait. Instead, build routines that are so simple that you can still do them on your hardest days. Maybe your usual walk is 30 minutes. On a busy day, walk for 5. Maybe your meditation is normally 20 minutes. Maybe today you only take 3 mindful breaths. The habit still stays alive because you've stayed connected to it.
That has changed my perspective so much. Years ago, I thought everything had to be all or nothing. Now I celebrate the small wins because a tiny act of self care is still self care. Can I ask you something? Why do we think tiny steps don't count?
I think it's because our brains love those big dramatic results. We notice big changes more easily than gradual ones. That's just how our brain operates. Biologically, lasting change usually comes from repetition. Small actions, repeated consistently, create stronger neural pathways over time. That's why sustainable habits almost always outperform extreme plans that only last a few weeks.
Spiritually, I think tiny steps are acts of trust. Every time you choose one small action that honors yourself, you're sending your subconscious a message. I matter. I'm worth showing up for. And those little moments become part of your identity. Eventually, you're no longer someone who's trying to meditate. You're someone who values peace. You're no longer someone trying to exercise. You're someone who honors your body. Identity changes first, and then behavior follows.
I love that because behavior science actually supports that idea. When our actions align with the kind of person that we believe we are, those habits become way easier to maintain.
I want to leave everyone with something I've been practicing lately. It's become one of my favorite evening rituals. Before bed, instead of asking, what didn't I get done today? I ask a different question. How did I show up for myself today? And some nights my answer is I drank enough water. I laughed, I took a walk. I rested when I needed to. I said no. I asked for help. None of these things are headline worthy, but every one of them is evidence that I'm caring for myself.
Absolutely. Our brains naturally focus on unfinished tasks. And by ending your day, by acknowledging what you did, accomplishes and helps create a more balanced perspective on yourself, Amy. It's not about ignoring what still needs to be done. It's about recognizing that your day wasn't defined only by what didn't happen.
Exactly. And one more thing, I've started keeping a small piece of green aventurine on my nightstand. Not because I believe crystals change my life by themselves. For me, it's a visual reminder that growth is gradual. Every night when I see it, I remind myself progress doesn't have to be perfect to be meaningful. Sometimes we just need something that gently brings our attention back to the intention we've set.
I think that's such a beautiful way to use a meaningful object. Whether it's a crystal or a favorite quote, a bracelet, or even a photo, having something that reminds you of the person that you're becoming can help interrupt old patterns and reconnect you with your values. All right, it's time for this week's home play. This week, we want you to let go of the idea of starting over. Instead, choose just one healthy habit you've been missing. Just one, not 10, not an entirely new routine, just one.
Then make it so simple you can't talk yourself out of it. So maybe it's drinking one extra glass of water. Maybe it's taking a 5-minute walk, journaling for only 2 minutes, stretching before bed, sitting quietly with your morning coffee or tea without scrolling on your phone, taking 3 slow breaths before opening your email. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is remembering that every moment gives you another opportunity to begin again.
And that wraps up this week's episode of Wholistic Wednesdays. Thank you for spending part of your week with us. We never take your time or your trust for granted.
Remember, you don't have to erase the past weeks to move forward. You don't need permission from the calendar. You don't need Monday. You don't need next month. You don't need January 1st. You simply need the courage to begin again. One breath, one choice, one small step at a time.
If today's conversation encouraged you, we'd love for you to share it with someone who's been feeling like they've fallen behind. Sometimes a reminder that we don't have to start over is exactly what someone needs to hear.
Follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Holistic_Wednesdays. That's holistic with a W. And if you have a question you'd like us to answer in a future episode, send it our way. We love hearing from you, and your questions help shape these conversations.
Until next Wednesday, honor your body
Trust your intuition.
and keep shifting.
The views expressed on this podcast are for educational and entertainment purposes only and are not intended as medical or psychological advice. While we use hypnotherapy techniques, please never listen to the visualization portion of this show while driving or operating heavy machinery. Always consult a healthcare professional for your specific needs.